How's it going? I'm your favorite carnitine consumer here named Gabriel. If you guys do want to skip to any parts of the video down below, there should be chapters tagged down below. Go ahead and click on those if there's some other stuff that you don't want to see. And I know that we said that there would be a 60-day follow-up, a 90-day follow-up. Well, here we are, over 180 days later on using L-Carnitine. And honestly, I think we should just start by hopping off the bat and saying, one, thank you guys so much for all of the support on the first video where we, at the time of recording this, I think it has amassed over 5,000 views. And we will link it up in one of these two corners for anyone that hasn't seen it already to just go ahead and review that one to catch up so we can, expedite how this video goes. So I think I owe you guys an apology in how stuff was handled in between the two videos, the last one and this one. I know that I said that there would be an update or something else like that, and honestly I failed to produce an update. Now why is that? Well, when I first moved out here, I started a new engineering job, and since then I have worked pretty much non-stop at that job, as in I've not taken a vacation, I have not had any days off, any sick time, anything like that since I had started up until about March of this year. And since then I've been working really hard because I'm on track for a promotion right at that year one point. So I'm trying to lock that in so I'm a little more financially sound. My work responsibilities go up slightly, but then I can somewhat take my foot off of the gas at least while I look to handle some other stuff at the time. But also some of the other stuff that I wanted to elapse in between my two filmings of these videos are, I wanted to take my second round of blood work with Merrick Health, who is my prescriber for the L-Carnitine that I have been using for this one, as well as give it some more time to develop how my thoughts and opinions were towards it. So as for how my second round of blood work went with it, in regards to my testosterone levels, my cholesterol levels, and a lot of different stuff, there was a lot of promising changes in between the two. There will be another video coming out regarding Merrick Health in the near future. There's just been some details because I've been trying to work with Merrick and get some other stuff sorted. And it seems like everything's in the state where we can start producing that video now. But there's some very good changes. Some of the ones that might be worth mentioning in regards to this video is total testosterone levels have doubled, almost tripled since the filming of that video. My cholesterol, at least my triglycerides, have halved since that video. Same with my LDL cholesterol and my VLDL, or very low density cholesterol. That has also halved since the filming of that video, which will come into some of the talking points for later on in this video, as well as overall energy levels are up. And there's a few different hormonal markers that we might be able to discuss when it comes to some of the efficacy and some of the side effects of using L-Carnitine. With that also said, we will tag the video for Merrick, both with the old one and the new one if it is up, or when it is up, regarding Merrick Health and my experience with them in one of the two corners. No idea which one that is still, honestly. You'd think I'd learn that one by now. But just some of the general updates before we kind of get into how I was hoping this video would go. For those who just want to get into the nitty-gritty, addressing some of the comments and the overall changes in body composition, we will tag or put up a marker for the time here, or you can go ahead and check down below in the description for any tags in the video. Just in case, we will make sure that that is evident in the start of the video. But when it comes to my overall usage of L-Carnitine, I have played around with the dosing a little bit of it. So I've been using anywhere between 50 and 100 IUs of L-Carnitine, so that is a half milliliter anywhere to a milliliter. Obviously, it changes based on the concentration of the L-Carnitine. And also, since the conclusion of my last video, I have stopped pretty much all injections into ventroglute. Honestly, there's no real reason that I would advise that to anyone. Personally, I just have not been able to get a good pin out of my ventroglute. Just any time that I pin that one, either I'm getting a lot of squeeze back, I'm hitting like scar tissue something and it just hurts, but I just haven't had a good clean pin out of that one. it just hasn't been my favorite. I also have not really done any deltoid pins recently. Everything has been through my lats, just alternating in between the two. And since I have decently sized lats, it gives me about like 3 to 6 injection points that I have per lat, so I can just alternate between the two. Or on days that I'm doing double dosages of L-Carnitine, it gives me 1 per side. And I've found that even up to about a mil or 100 IUs of L-Carnitine has been completely fine into the lat. Obviously there's a little bit of lumping, but long term the lumping does go down and there's been no real issues away from it. And honestly, the more that I've done them, the easier it's gotten. Still have not touched the quads. I don't think I could ever do the quads. Then getting into it, yeah, obviously we have the changing of dosages, just playing with the dosages. That was discussed with my healthcare provider, Merrick Health, and they were completely fine with it. It was something that I was fine with doing. So no harm, no foul there, I guess. If you guys want to see an approximate physique transformation in between the two, we will put the clips to follow here and here. In the first clip, I'm about 186 pounds. This was in November, right before I really started consistent usage of L-Carnitine. So I would have started right around Halloween. So that would be end of October, start of November. But I think the time that it would take for it to get into the system and actually start working would not have taken place yet, so you guys could see an approximate transformation. Then the second video clip will be me today, actually, recording this, which is June 1st. And that one, I am 189 pounds, so we're approximately the same body weight. Programming has stayed relatively the same. I have not changed split, or I have not changed my, even really my exercises up until about a week ago. So same programming, same volume. Diet is relatively the same in between the two. So it's as apples to apples as I can get it, away from obviously angles of the video, but circumstances and situations were about as identical as we could have it. Granted, my blood work has changed in between the two, and maybe you could contribute some of the changes to that. But with that being said, roll the clip. So I thought for this portion of the video, it might be beneficial to discuss some of the feedback and comments that I got on my prior video regarding L-Carnitine usage, and just kind of address them as they come. So first one's first, looking forward to your 90-day update when the time comes. Well, I'm sorry I lied. We're not doing a 90-day update. We're doing 180 days, or half a year. So there is more data that we can work with. We had a few regarding Merrick Health. I will put a link down below to be able to schedule some just preliminary calls with Merrick Health down below to discuss stuff. If getting your blood work and having really good endocrinology support is something that you're interested in. As a disclosure, I don't make any profit and I don't make any money from it. I am not affiliated with Merrick Health, so take it for what it is. I think it's a beneficial service and I've had a great experience. But, you know, your mileage may vary and there's only so much that they can do in the realm of telemedicine. So if you guys do want to try that out, link is down below, and good luck with that. One of the comments is a half needle sufficient, or do you need an inch? To this, I would say a half needle or a half-inch needle, depending on the gauges, is going to be absolutely plenty. Obviously, you want to get away with the lowest possible gauge that you can, or the highest possible gauge. You want the needle to be the smallest that it can to get the job done, so you're minimizing the amount of scar tissue being produced. So ideally it would be a 1/2 inch, obviously depending on your body composition and how your, your muscular depth is, it's really going to change. I would recommend L-Carnitine being an intramuscular injection. So obviously there's a lot more tissue to go through prior to it reaching a muscular depth. Then maybe you'd want to go 1 inch. But in most cases, it is recommended that you would do a 1/2 inch needle, and it would be a larger gauge needle, just so you don't have any scar tissue formation. And keep in mind that even with a 1/2 inch needle, depending on the amount of force that you are pushing it in with, you might actually hit deeper depths. Another one was, or a lot of them were about the sourcing of the L-Carnitine that I was using. I am using L-Carnitine provided to me from Merrick, and the producer of it is Empower Pharmacy. Obviously, mine is through prescription, so I can't speak to sourcing it elsewhere. There are some other sources, however, I don't know the purity, the efficacy, or how it's manufactured. So I'm not going to say seek it out, but there are other options out there if you don't want to go through getting it prescribed through you from a medical professional. Another one were about some people that were injecting it and just, discussing stuff and how it made them feel. Obviously, in between 30 days and 180 days, my overall opinion of it has stayed relatively the same. Obviously, I've changed my injection sites, but I do think it still has been beneficial to my energy levels, how I'm feeling, and helping me progress. Also, I think in terms of my physique, where I do have a lot more androgen receptors present, I do think that there has been a little bit of density or changes when it comes to my overall frame, being how much thickness I feel like is in my neck to a slight extent, but in my traps, in my delts, I feel like there has been some density changes and stuff looks slightly thicker. Maybe not super thick, but I'm also not super happy with my physique. And I never really have been. So, take it for what it's worth. It's all visual, and I will let you make those judgments on if L-Carnitine gives you any visual differences depending on when you're taking it, how much you're taking it, or how often you're taking it. Mine is taking it for about a 1/2 year, and that is the approximate changes that it's made to some of my androgen receptor density areas. So use your own judgment and do your own research when it comes to that one. I think it makes a slight difference. I don't think it's an absolute game changer like some other stuff is. Some of the other questions were, what about like the powders and stuff like that for L-Carnitine usage for those that don't want to pin it? I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with using the powders or pill forms or other like liquid forms of L-Carnitine. The bioavailability of L-Carnitine is a lot lower from oral intakeable forms, and there's also some side effects that you should be aware of from it. There is more TMAO conversion present in between when you're consuming L-Carnitine. A lot of them are the acetyl L-Carnitine variants, and TMAO conversion can have some negative side effects. Also, when you're taking doses through oral options, it can cause gut discomfort for some people and some other issues like that. You can imagine what those are based on that one. So maybe if you do want to try out the powders or the pill forms, I would recommend splitting up your dosages throughout the day into smaller increments, and also you would want to increase your dosage probably based on the lower bioavailability. But I'm not going to say how much you should roughly take, because it is dependent on your own body weight and some other stuff. I also don't want to be liable for that. So again, with that one, do your own research. It's pretty readily available with that one. Then I did get a 12-point thing discussing and calling out my video for that one, of which it did raise up a few points that, I just wanted to discuss. A lot of them I did have an issue with that comment being put out on the video, but I'm not going to delete it just because that would be censoring information or censoring stuff that's being put out there. Someone putting out their own research or their own thoughts and viewpoints towards L-Carnitine usage. However, it does appear from my own inference to it that they were talking about oral consumption of L-Carnitine, not through intramuscular injections. So it changes a lot of the points that were made. But some of the points that they put out were, it's not safe if you have epilepsy, if you have preventative coronary artery disease, if you have bipolar disease, if you have lower blood sugar, higher triglycerides for people with diabetes, if you have trouble sleep, if you have higher blood pressure, headaches, clogged veins and other heart issues, seizures, neuropathy, hypothyroidism, diarrhea, nausea, etc. And they're saying the less you take, the more safe it'll be. If you could use 100 and split up the powder, yada, 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 other consumptions and other forms to get it through. But to that, I will say there's very limited scientific research and scientifically backed research in between the ties between L-Carnitine usage and epilepsy. It might slightly lower the seizure threshold for people already experiencing epilepsy, which is why I would recommend going through with a medical professional when you're going through stuff like this. For the coronary artery disease one, that one is linked in between having increased levels of TMAO, which is trimethylene N oxide. I might have butchered that one, but that TMAO is associated with cardiovascular risk. It is still a debated area, but L-Carnitine is not the only thing I believe that would give you elevated levels of TMAO, so it's something to be present of. However, I think a lot of people already suffer from elevated risk to cardiovascular risk categories, and if you are taking carnitine, you might actually be able to lower your overall risk profile to cardiovascular disease. So I think it's kind of a gray area when it comes to that one. There's not really any ties between bipolar disorder and L-Carnitine. There might be some very limited ones, but I don't think there's enough of a scientific background or understanding to say that there's a clear tie in between them. And it's just not something that has been studied that much. Then with the blood sugar and triglycerides, L-Carnitine has been reported to affect blood sugar and lipid levels with diabetic patients. It's actually been shown to lower blood glucose levels and increase triglyceride levels in some points. But again, this is why you should be working with a medical professional when it is possible to make sure this is something applicable to you, and why I recommend doing blood work. There's no real studies showing any ties in between acetyl L-Carnitine and blood pressure. So again, as you guys can see, there's a lot of the points that were made where there's, it might be anecdotal evidence behind it, but there's not a ton of scientific backed literature behind it. There's not a lot of studies or other information to be able to draw a clear link in between the two. Side effects is a reported issue, and again, that might just be other issues. Heart arteries, again, that's tied to TMAO, which is why I recommend going through forms that would minimize your TMAO conversion. Seizure risk, we already discussed that one. Neuropathy, L-Carnitine has been used in some cases to treat neuropathy, especially in diabetic patients, but again, the effects can vary. So it's kind of a gray area. Gastrointestinal issues, again, that is through the oral consumption of L-Carnitine, which is what tipped it off to that might be what they were referring to. But who's to really say? I'm not going to interpret someone's words. That is what they put out, and I just wanted to respond to some of them. Some of the other questions were, have you ever tried a subcutaneous pin for L-Carnitine? Personally, I have not. Maybe I have missed muscle on a few of the pins. However, I've never set out to do a subcutaneous injection of L-Carnitine because it was recommended to me and I was told to inject it intramuscularly, so I'm not going to vary off of the plan that was given to me. That would defeat the point of it. And then another comment is, who the hell is injecting L-Carnitine? LMFAO, what a joke. Might as well just pin testosterone at that point if you feel like shit. And to that, I can say I somewhat understand where you're coming from, but I also understand, some of the changes or some of the reasons that you would not want to do that. For example, L-Carnitine can have some effects on energy production, exercise performance, weight loss, cognitive function, heart health, metabolic syndrome, male fertility, diabetes, fatigue, peripheral neuropathy, and kidney function. I'm just reading some of the notes that I have summarized for this one, but that's a few different sections that I can cover, so maybe your goal is not necessarily to have increased testosterone levels, but it could just be you're looking to improve some of those areas or have changes within those areas. And in that case, why would you be taking testosterone or injecting testosterone? Another counterpoint to that one is when you are taking TRT or HRT, generally that treatment is going to be for life, because as your systems are not being used to produce testosterone, or it's signaling that there's already enough within the body, it's just going to shut down production, and sometimes it's hard to restart that production. So someone might not be tied to taking medicine for life, or replacement therapies for life. So using L-Carnitine, really you can honestly get on it and get off of it whenever. It's not really going to change too much, depending on what your overall goals for it are. But when it comes to how L-Carnitine would affect your testosterone levels, it can improve your androgen receptor density, which is one of the things that I potentially noticed as evident based on my overall blood work. Granted, my levels of total testosterone did increase, but my free testosterone levels did also change tangentially, which using L-Carnitine should be able to theoretically increase muscle mass, strength, and other androgenic function. I did have a strength increase as well as a muscle mass increase. Based on the prior clips, it would appear it also does influence free testosterone levels potentially, where it's free testosterone, for those of you who don't know, is the bioactive form of testosterone that's not bound to SHBG or albumin, and thus is available to be transposed into tissues, which would be changing the muscular effects of it. So if we look at my SHBG levels in between the 2 rounds of testing, then that might be able to give us some overall changes in between the two. So just one second here. So if we look at my free testosterone levels in between the 2 rounds of blood work testing, I started at about 8.13, that would be nanograms per deciliter. I ended up at about 16 nanograms per deciliter. It's still below what you would want it to be for, an optimal male, but showing those overall increases, that is beneficial. Also, if we look at my SHBG, it went from a 17.2 to a 23. Slight increase, and it is now within an optimal range for a male, but my total testosterone went from in the 200s to middle of 600s. So as you can see, there's some sizable changes in between the two, but it is just to say that potentially that I had more testosterone that was being able to be transposed into tissue when the time comes. Then overall hormonal health, it's believed that carnitine usage can help with improving mitochondrial function, reducing oxidative stress, and increasing my metabolic function. I would say that these benefits can not directly but indirectly support healthy testosterone levels, as having poor metabolic health or high oxidative stress can suppress a lot of your hormone production. So just by using L-Carnitine, potentially that was one of the benefits that helped raise up my overall levels for that one. But it just helps to, or some of the overall reasons that someone will want to use L-Carnitine instead of injecting testosterone is it just can help improve the overall effectiveness of the existing testosterone within the body without going to exogenous introduction of it by enhancing your overall androgen receptor density. So you have a better chance at using more of the testosterone that your body is producing. Additionally, by potentially increasing your free testosterone levels by lowering SHBG, you have a better chance at being able to produce tissue. Then by, as we discussed, changing your overall supporting metabolic functions and hormonal health, you might be able to, in turn, produce more testosterone as those systems are not being suppressed. But in the end of the day, there's still a wide amount of research being conducted and a lot of research that has concluded. This has been something that I have found to be beneficial to my life and how I'm feeling. So all I can do is document my experiences and my journeys with it, try and aggregate as much information as I can. To anyone that wanted to watch however ungodly long this video ends up being, and in a rant. And to that one, all I can say is thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, like the video, feel free to share it, drop a like, subscribe. There's going to be a lot more videos about this one coming soon, just because I am in a better place. In turn of that one, we will have a blood work breakdown coming soon. We will have some other videos discussing Merrick Health coming soon, and just some other videos in the general atmosphere coming soon. But I appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch this video. And with that being said, hope you guys have a fantastic day. And until the next one. But if you guys do have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to drop them down below.